The New York Giants were confident coming off their first week victory in 1958. But even though the Philadelphia Eagles had lost their first game of the season, the Giants should not have taken them so lightly. The strategy on the morning of October 5th, 1958 was clear. Philadelphia needed to attack in the air, and veteran quarterback Norm Van Brocklin was the man for the job. Van Brocklin might not be well remembered today, but he was a star passer and punter back in those days. And in the end, the New York passing defense struggled against Van Brocklin and his aerial assault. The clear highlight of Philadelphia's win was a 91-yard touchdown in the second quarter. And it was too little too late for the Giants, who lost a frustrating defeat. Well, hi there, everybody, and we'll try to do a little bit better than the New York Giants did in real life. It's good to be back with you again, and let's just go ahead and get straight into this. So, the key for us, I think, in this game is going to be trying to do what we can with the passing attack that we're pretty sure is going to come. Now, we know that that was going to come in real life, and it looked like the Giants did have some struggles with that passing defense in real life by this time. But we definitely know it's coming in this game because this is not a accurate simulation of 1958 at all. This is Tecmo Super Bowl. So you know that we're going to see a lot of passing. Now it says here third week. This is actually the second week, but it did this so that we could have games on multiple days. This is sort of part of the hack and all the other stuff that they do with this. And so it is. We're going to go ahead and just get going with this. We'll receive the kick and we'll see what we can do with it here. There is a video coming. I hope that it'll be done sometime today. It's kind of at the end of the editing queue right now, but I have a video coming on sort of advice for playing a Tecmo Super Bowl on juiced mode now that I've spent a lot of time doing that. I do have some pieces of advice that might be a little bit helpful for those of you who are interested in playing stuff like this. And that's one of the pieces of advice right there, right? So what Phil King did that was so good is I had a little section there at the beginning of that run back where he was going vertical. In other words, he was going up to down on the screen instead of going like diagonal. And so you want to do that from time to time when you're playing this. The more that you can do that sort of like vertical type return of the touchdown or the kickoff, the better off you're going to be. See, it even works against us. It's exactly what this guy's doing. So we've had two really, really good returns for kickoffs. And, I mean, this game is already almost 2 minutes old, and we haven't even done anything yet. And look at that. We end up with Sam Huff getting the quarterback sack. Sam Huff, of course, the one who was featured on the introduction screen. All right, we're going to try to go back here. See, that was really, really dangerous, and they were able to get our safety there out of position. He did the exact same thing that I did. He saw that the quarterback was probably going to run, and he came up to protect against that, and in the end, he was out of position. All right, we got him now 2nd and 11. So this is potentially a difficult game for us. We can't take this as any sort of gimme. All right, we got 3rd down now. I doubt I'm going to have enough time today to do this, but one of these days when I do have enough time, we're going to play some Joe Montana on probably the whatever game the 94 game was. Oh, a lot easier for me to break through that time than normal. Wow. Maybe I've been playing that CFL 2025 a little bit too much. Tecmo Grey Cup. No magic that time. All right. Let's see what we can do here. I'll try to go with good old triple. There we go. One of the other pieces of advice that I have is that you really should try to, go with where your blockers are taking you and go with kind of what the play call actually is. That can be difficult to do in this game because it's easy to forget what your play call was. But as much as possible, you do want to do that. The other bit of advice, of course, is you kind of want to stay away from plays like the one that we just ran. It's not always the best idea in the world to have a play that has a lot of development in the backfield, especially if you're playing against something that's juiced. And this game is at least slightly juiced. So you got to be really, really careful with plays that develop really well in the backfield. All right. There we go. I had a feeling we'd be able to punch it in, and we did. So interesting stuff there, as you saw in the introduction to this video. The Eagles winning this game in real life on a 91-yard touchdown pass. And of course, this is 1958. It's not like they were heaving the ball that far away back then. One thing that I think would be interesting, at least, is maybe a video or a bit of research on football equipment over time, which is one of the aspects of the game that has changed over the years and that nobody really talks about. So it might be interesting to sort of look into that, see what I can find about that. I don't know, we'll put that sort of on the list of ideas. And, you know, as I always say, the thing about a channel like this is that it's not like there's, you know, a shortage of time or something like that. We can do basically anything that we want. There's no manager, there's nobody telling me, like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you know. Nice catch. Anyway, so it feels a little bit different, right? Playing with a team that's actually pretty good. We played really, really well in the week 1 game. We'll see if we have the same sort of luck here. Yeah, there's definitely, though, a difference when it comes to playing defense with this team versus that Ottawa Red Blacks team. That was really, really, really not easy. All right, we stopped them. So we stopped them and we forced the punt here on 4th and 3. This is exactly what we want to see. Of course, you know, and other people mention this to me all the time, that there are other Tecmo football games, not just Tecmo Super Bowl on the NES. There's also a Super Nintendo version of this game that also has its own group of modifications and other things that you can do with it. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we can play and sort of mess around with, you know, as time goes on. Whatever it is you're interested in, let me know, and we'll try to make it happen as best as possible. I'm not sure, though, that I want to do a whole bunch of different, like, sort of long-term series at once. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily want to punt this away. And I'm happy I didn't. My thought process there is sort of like, you know, I think we can gain 2 yards. I don't think that we're in, like, dire straits here. Oh, that was really, really bad. So that's one of the things you don't want to do. You don't want to run straight into the defender like that. When we have wide open field in front of you, you don't want to run into the defender. That would be a really bad thing to do. That was a bad pass. All right, so we gave up an interception there. That ended that drive. It was a pretty good drive as well. Is a fairly good coverage. So that's a play. If you're up against that and you have the ball, you don't want to do what they just did. You don't want to just sort of like throw it over into whatever. Same thing right here, right? You don't want to make that pass. There's no possible way you're going to complete that pass, right? When the guy's double teamed. The thing that's difficult about this game is figuring out a way to like recognize when you've got a situation like that, as opposed to a situation right there where you have somebody wide open but you can't see him. Anyway, so back to our friends. The marching band is out, all the cheerleaders come out, there's the blimp, the Tecmo blimp. You ever see those old commercials about the good rich blimp or whatever? This is from TV from like the late 70s, early 80s, and they were making fun of the Goodyear blimp and all that stuff. What about the Tecmo blimp? Nobody ever talks about the Tecmo blimp. Oh man. Look at him go. There's nobody even close to him. Boy, that was some bad luck for us. So they end up with Norm Van Brocklin, of all people, the quarterback, who's really, really fast, ends up returning that one after a fumble recovery. Ends up taking that one all the way back, and that makes it 14-10. So that's definitely not the way that we wanted to start off the second half. Fortunately, they're not particularly good at making a kickoff. So, you know, there's a little bit of that. We have that as sort of an advantage. I think that this is a older ROM. I think that this was actually made sometime around the pandemic. And so as a result, I think that there are certain things that, you know, were maybe standard practice in ROM editing for Tecmo Super Bowl back then that are not standard practice anymore, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm having such an easy time with certain things in this game. I told you guys all along that, you know, I was actually better at this game than my performance in with the Ottawa Red Blacks showed me. But anyway, I shouldn't say too much about this, right? Because we have a long season ahead of us. Especially if I keep doing stuff like that. That was bad. I ended up making it anyway. Pat Summerall with a kick again. I wonder when Pat Summerall was playing for the Giants if he ever considered that he would be in broadcasting one day. Because the funny thing is that nobody remembers him for being, you know, a kicker. Everybody remembers him for being a broadcaster. That's how the country saw him. Anyway, good times. So the other thing I want to talk about real quick is the snow that we're supposed to have, right? I hope that wherever you are, and I intercepted that. How about that? How you like them apples? So I'm hoping that wherever you are, I'm filming this on Friday. I hope that wherever you are, you're able to weather whatever kind of weather ends up coming your way. Over here in Virginia, we're supposed to have, I don't know, it's like maybe 6 to 12 inches of snow or something like that. So it should be pretty rough. By the way, I just called the same play twice, and the computer guessed right the second time. Interesting stuff. So we'll just call that touchdown. Yeah, I hope that you're able to get out of the snow if the snow does come your way. It should be pretty bad here, but I think it'll be all right. As far as we're concerned, I mean, we're used to it. I grew up in Utah. You know, like, I'm used to having a lot of snow in the winter. It's not really that big of a deal for me. We lived in Ottawa, Canada for 2 years, so, like, you know, we know all about, like, real winter weather. We also lived in northeast China for a while, where it was also very, very cold and wintry. Yeah, see, that was the wrong decision, right? I was able to hammer the quarterback, and then we gave up a touchdown. So the motto of this is like, if you're going to blitz, make sure that you're doing the right thing. Norm Van Brocklin is a good passer, and I think that's part of the issue. We're going to be able, by the way, because I was able to get that close, we're going to be able to block some extra points and field goals here before long. Yeah, I mean, I understand why they want to do an onside kick here, but it is kind of a questionable decision. This was not a particularly good play call, and look at that, we ended up getting away with it anyway. How about that? So that shows you just how good this triple, or whatever his name is, really is. I mean, this guy's good. That was not a good pass. I think that we got the routes mixed up there. I don't think that Connerly realized where the receiver was actually going. That was also not a good pass. Alex Webster, not a particularly fast receiver. Alright, well, let's see if we can punch it in one more time here. But, of course, this is not over. Yeah, this, like I said, this is not over. We're trying to call that play again here. Let's see if they blitz us again. They don't this time. Part of the problem with this play call is that it's kind of a slow developing play. And yeah, if you're going to go like the other way on one of those plays, you got to make 100% sure that you're doing the right thing. I don't think that I did the right thing there by trying to go the other way. I should have just kept with the play. We would have been okay. But we scored the touchdown anyway. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. Triplet, that's right. Triplet. Null triplet with the touchdown. That puts us up by a sizable margin. So that should be pretty good for us. 35-17. And there's only a little bit of time left, so we can hit this kick as far as we possibly can and sort of see what comes out of this next. Interesting for me to see after my big preview of the New York Giants and the vaunted defense that they did so poorly against Philadelphia in the second game of the season. But the big problem was that passing attack by the Eagles. That's really what did them in. We'll see what happens as our season goes along. I think we're going to end up doing a little bit better. Nice catch again. They have good receivers. I don't know if you noticed that. Alright, you can see here that we actually have all 3 timeouts here instead of just having 1. So this is definitely not on easy mode, that's for sure. Or I'm sorry, not on hard mode. Man, Norm Van Brocklin really can run. Great athlete. That's one of the nice things about doing these projects. You end up learning about guys who maybe you've heard their name before, alright, but you end up really learning about them because you know, like see what they're capable of doing, you see how they play. I mean, this is just, you know, Tecmo Super Bowl, so it's all sort of cartoonish anyway, but still is pretty cool. Alright, good times. Alright, that brings up 3rd and 11, and we just need one more stop here. I think that they're going to go for it if we get to 4th down. Yeah, they're going to go for it here. Yep, told you. And they're going to need to get about 15 points on this one play, so that tells you how possible this is for them. Oh, but they get 7. Tommy McDonald with the jumping catch, and hold on to everything because there is a chance. Yeah, we blocked it. Told you we were going to block one, and we blocked one. But there's no time left. There's no possible way that they're going to... Do you see that? That's the end of this game. No possible way for them to come back. We almost scored another touchdown at the end. I was kind of hoping for it. New York wind up with only 220 yards of offense. So it wasn't a spectacular game. They had 229. But we did very, very well in terms of being really efficient with the ball. 57% for Connerly, and Triplets already got 144 yards rushing. So there you go. That's the end of that one. Let's go over here to the schedule, and we will auto-skip to week 4. Where we have, looks like one of the afternoon games. And that's another thing, by the way, that we should look at. I do want to do a video here coming up soon talking about sort of the NFL on television and a little bit of the history behind it, how we got to where we are today, or at least how we got to where we were in like the early 2000s. You know, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. I do want to take a quick look here at the standings and see sort of how we're doing. This is very, very interesting. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the standings there at all. We'll look a little bit later, I think, at the team data and all that stuff once we have a couple more games played. So there you have it. Thank you for joining me with this. Hope you have fun. I love playing this. I love doing the research. We got a lot more of this coming up. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Can't believe I have to say that, but sometimes it helps to say that. Stay tuned. We got a whole bunch of videos like this. We're going to do a lot of these. Try to do one every day if I can. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.